If I'm being completely honest, sometimes you just want to give up. This has been one of those weeks for me. Life has a way of sneaking up on you. You never know when things are going to change. All you know is that you hope that you're ready for it. That moment came for me in January of this year after a wedding. I looked at a photo and saw a man in a picture frame that I was told was me, but I certainly couldn't believe it. When I went home that night and weighed myself, I realized something had to change. With 30 pounds left to go, I wanted to invite you along for the rest of this journey. And I want to encourage you to change your life for the better. Any of us who have started trying to eat a healthier lifestyle or change the way we're doing things or change bad habits for better habits, we all know what it's like to sort of hit a plateau. Or even worse, we know what it's like to work, and then to see numbers on a scale increase when your output is still elevating and increasing itself. You're just not seeing the scale tip in the other direction. And it gets frustrating. A day goes by, 2 days, 3 days, sometimes an entire week goes by, and you stay fluctuating between 1 pound to 3 pounds over where you originally were. And you're trying to identify what the problem really was. I think I've identified the problem. I think I know what led to that. This week was probably the most frustrating week I've ever had. In fact, the results started to reverse. The work that I was putting out, the food that I was putting in, just didn't make any sense for the results that I was seeing. I was expecting to see the results that I'd seen over the last 10 months to a year, where it was consistent dropping of body fat percentage and fat, right? So body fat percentage, but also an increase in muscle percentage. So I'm having a hard time understanding what the numbers are telling me right now. But basically what I had was, as of last week, the first week when I started back on this, I was like 185 or something like that, 185. And my goal this week was to get to 181, 182 mark, which is entirely possible, accounting for both water weight and the fat loss with the high intensity training output that I was doing. That didn't happen. In fact, the opposite happened. I gained 4 pounds. 4 pounds. Now, obviously, it's not 4 pounds of fat. One, because I'm looking at the scale and I see the body fat percentage is staying the same and is even dropping 0.5%. So I know my body fat is starting to go down. And I do know that my output of my strength training and everything that I'm doing throughout the week is also causing it to go up. And muscle does have a higher density than fat. So we could probably expect that to be a weight gain. In addition to that, I'm not drinking enough water. So what happens is any of the sodium and salts that I'm eating in my foods, my water intake is so low that my body is sort of holding on to it and is retaining that water instead of drinking much of it and flushing it out as is typical. Now, I've tried to reverse that trend this week, and I did see some good hope here. We are actually right now, I'm recording middle of week 3. This is the week 2 video that I'm putting out right now. So I was a little frustrated. So last week going through it, I almost got to the point where I just said, you know what, it's just not working. While I'm eating healthy foods and I'm happy with what I'm doing, I was putting too much into it, and I was putting too much salts and too much additives into my food. And I think that accounted for a lot of the water retention in there. So I'm sitting here right now as I'm talking to you, even though I have a lower body fat percentage than I did when I started this, I'm still sitting here at a higher weight. The whole reason for me losing weight was to be healthy for my daughter and my wife and our family, so that I'm around for a while. But a secondary goal to that was I really want to start flying aerobatics. I want to be an aerobatic pilot, just something I've always wanted to do, and I want to start training for that. And you have to be a certain weight to make that happen, so that the center of gravity and the G-forces on the airplane, or the weight and balance of the aircraft that you fly, are typically very light. So the individual flying the airplane should typically be between, for my height and weight, should typically be between that 140 to 160 mark is really where you want to be. So my goal is really to get down to that point so that I can jump into the cockpit and fly safely. So that's what I'm trying to do here, but I want to drop that weight to do it. So I do need to see a weight drop, but I also need to see a muscle retention. So that's why I'm frustrated, right? So this week I see the weight increase, and I know it's not fat because we have to remember that a fat, even if I didn't have the scale, right? I'm looking at the numbers on the scale. Even if I didn't have the body fat percentage listed on the scale, I know it's not fat because I would actually have to consume 3,500 calories above what I was actually already doing in a normal day with my resting metabolic rate, or the rate at which I just at rest normally burn calories. I think is usually about 2,650, 2,700 for me in a day. But what I see is that I would actually have to consume 3,500 calories more than that to gain a pound. Obviously, I'm not doing that. I think my calorie intake average day for the entire week rested at around 2,000 to 2,200 calories. So I wasn't anticipating the huge drop like I originally was. I kind of had to level out a little bit and figure out, okay, maybe I need to drink more water, adjust the way I'm doing things. But that didn't happen. And I was trying to figure out why that might be occurring. So this week, I went in and I lost 3 pounds after doing one really high intensity training and a run, about a 45-minute to an hour workout. And I fasted through morning, and then the afternoon I just hit up dinner. So I saw some loss there, and I knew that it was again water retention that was still stuck there. So I was able to sort of get rid of some of that, and now I'm in the process of ridding that mostly. So we are in week 3 now. I anticipate week 3 I'll probably be back to where I was week 1, and then hitting up next week I'll be able to break that 180 mark, get back into the 170s and on to the 160s. So I'm hoping I've broken that train. But I tell you, this was an incredibly frustrating week because I kept going to the scale, looking at it and seeing the numbers gradually go up, despite all the effort that I'm putting in. We have to remember that it's, again, not about weight. For me, a goal, it is about weight, but more importantly, it's about body fat. It's about the fat around your cells and wanting to remove that and burn that fat as energy and kind of get into a point. Your body weight is less important than it is your muscle percentage and your body fat percentage is. So that's kind of where my head needs to be, and that's where I think if you're going through this, your head needs to be at as well. Focus on the little things that you're eating. You know, anything that you're adding to it, whether it's olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, salt and pepper, any sort of seasonings you're putting on. Just take a look at them. Make sure there aren't any sugars. Make sure there aren't any hidden sugars. Make sure the sodium content is minimal, depending on how much you're actually putting on. And also be aware of some of the dressings and salad dressings that you're putting on. While it does say low fat or something like that, you need to be also aware of those sweeteners and those sugars in there that add to the weight of that dressing. So be aware of that as well. But again, this is something you have to do long term. This isn't just going to be a diet. You have to do this long term. And if you find something that's broken and you're actually gaining weight, there's usually a good indicator as to why that's occurring. For me, this last weekend, I did go out to eat, which isn't unusual for me on the weekend. I typically go out and I go eat, and I ate very healthily, very healthily. Didn't have anything that was crazy. Until I think it was probably Sunday afternoon, my last meal of the weekend. We did go a little bit crazy and had quite a bit of food there. But again, water retention and that, I think I pretty much burned that off. So yeah, this has been probably one of the most frustrating weeks. That was week 2 that I've ever had. And I'm hoping now with week 3, as we're sitting on Thursday, that's behind us. It's in the rear view. And I can keep pushing forward and get to these next, 30 pounds in 3 months. So we'll make it happen. But I just want to share that with you. It's not easy all the time. Sometimes it's very frustrating. But the idea is to hang in there and keep pushing.